Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we've got a bunch of new cards that we need to take a little bit of a look at that are coming around in that upcoming Fusion Art set. So let's start off taking a little bit of a look at Maractus. I should mention all of our translations here do come from the lovely Antoine Boulet. We are fans of the lovely Antoine Boulet. You know this, ladies and gentlemen. We say it a lot. So Maractus then, what have we got? 110 HP is low. Retreat cost of 2 isn't ideal, but Air Balloon is not too bad. And weakness to fire. Fire's not looking amazing post-rotation. And that's very important, you got 110 HP, you'll be fine. Now, the first attack, 1 grass energy, 20 damage. I don't think we need to spend very long talking about this one. But the second attack here, 1 grass, 1 colorless, discard any number of Pokemon tool cards from your hand. This attack does 50 damage for each card you discarded in this way. So what we've got here is one of those potentially gigantic attacks. One of these attacks which can come along and just do an absolutely phenomenal amount of damage. Is there a catch? Obviously there's a catch, ladies and gentlemen. There is always a catch with things along these lines, and obviously there's a catch here. The problem is, we're running into this ridiculous situation where, how are you going to get all the tools? Like, if you can fill your hand up with tools, great news. But that's going to be difficult. Now, sure, you've got Shopping Center, which lets you take 1 tool from one of your Pokemon and put it into your hand. Yay. Don't forget we've got the Greedent, which will let you search your deck for a tool, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Those will both help. They're good ideas. But the fact of the matter is, now, if I'm missing something, let me know in the comment section here, because I'm over on PKMN Cards, which is a great site to do a bunch of research, and I'm searching for cards that interact with Pokemon tools, and again, I'm finding stuff like Shopping Center, like Greedent, but it's not looking great. Honestly, you're comboing with Garbodor. That's the combo here. Because Garbodor, for 2 colorless energy, does 30 damage for each Pokemon tool in your discard pile, and then you shuffle them into your deck. So essentially what you're doing here is big attack with Garbodor, shuffle them into your deck, big attack with Maractus, and round we go. So, look, Garbodor solves one of our problems. One of our problems was we need to make sure that we can recover those tools so that we can keep using them and keep attacking, and Garbodor solves that problem. Because Garbodor will get those tools back into your deck. But it doesn't solve the other problem, which is I need to draw into those tools. So what you basically got to do is just play a bunch of draw. Now, you don't want shuffle draw like Marnie, because that'll refresh your hand and you want to keep tools in your hand. And you don't want to play discard draw like Professor's Research, because that'll discard the tools. So you just need straight draw while keeping cards in your hand. You see where we're going with this? It's going to be so awkward trying to get the tools in your hand, and for me, that kind of ruins it. I love that you can flick between Maractus and Garbodor here. That makes me very, very happy indeed. But my problem is, with Garbodor, and Garbodor can attack for a twin energy, which is great, being able to do this big attack, I like it. But then I'm going to have to try and draw back into all of my tools, and I don't think Greedent alone is going to be able to do it, ladies and gentlemen. I would love to be wrong, because this is a really fun card, but the fact of the matter is it's a little bit awkward. What I will say is I actually like this probably more than Whimsicott. Whimsicott does 10 damage, then discards all your tools and does 40 more for each one you discarded. Whimsicott being a single energy is obviously a bit of an advantage, and you can basically put the tools into play and then discard them all when they're in play, but you deal more damage with Maractus. And with Whimsicott, you've got to play something that can have multiple tools attached, or else you've got a real ceiling. Whereas with Maractus, you can, in theory, just keep them all in your hand, and do giant attacks. To get over V max, you're going to need to have 7 tools in hand. That's going to be super awkward doing it with Whimsicott. Especially because Whimsicott, you'll need to actually have more than 7 tools. So, I think it's fun. And there's the obvious combo with Garbodor. And maybe you can have a deck that flicks between the two of them and is awesome. But I do rather worry that it's going to end up being too gosh darned awkward. I'm still giving it 3 Wossies because I think it's fun. And I desperately want it to be good. But you are going to need to find a way to draw into all of your tools. And especially like one of the ways we wanted to do it would be drawing a straight 3 with Oricorio post-rotation. And you can't do that because Oricorio is being rotated. Boo! Etc. But as fun as that might be, we need to go and have a look at Starmie. Starmie is very much the star, yes, I'm going to make that pun again before the end of the video, of this particular trio. Starmie is pretty gosh darn good. Fun little fact about Starmie, in French, Starmie is Star Ross, and in the poker rap, one of the verses ends with the dude shouting, Starmie! And when they did the poker rap in French, they didn't change the order, even though they did use the French names, and at times it sounds super awkward, but that means that one of the verses is ended by somebody shouting, Star Ross! And that makes me very happy indeed. So yeah, we got 90 HP here, which is very, very low. But I will say, you get to have Level Ball, which is quite nice. So I'm all in favor of that. And then we got 1 attack for a single water energy that lets you discard as much water energy as you like from this Pokemon. And then for each card you discarded in this way, you choose one of your opponent's Pokemon and do 30 damage to it. You can choose the same Pokemon more than once. Cool. And if you're thinking that sounds familiar, Wossie, well, it should. It's the Alolan Raichu from Unified Minds. And if you're thinking, well, hang on a second, Wossie, it sounds familiar, but it wasn't the Alolan Raichu, then you're probably thinking about the Bronzong Break, that both basically had the same attack. Although I do need to be extremely clear, Alolan Raichu was each energy. This is each energy card, which is super important, of course, because don't forget, Rapid Strike energy is very much a thing and counts as water energy and would therefore allow you to get 2 activations with 1 energy card. It doesn't work. It is each card. Okay. Now, Alolan Raichu was never particularly good. Bronzong actually was. It saw a bunch of play. But that's because Bronzong was a top deck at the time. You had the Bronzong from Phantom Forces with metal links that accelerated metal energy, so you could put Bronzong Break on top of it, and then get some cheeky extra attacks in with it. It was good. So is this more similar to Raichu or Bronzong? And the answer is Bronzong, because we've got Frostmoth. And this is a combo that writes itself, and I'm 100% into it. You accelerate energy with Frostmoth, and then you start peppering damage around the field using Starmie, and it's awesome. And at this stage, like me, you're probably thinking, Wossie, Persimmon, Telescopic Sight, how broken is this? And the answer is a little broken, not as broken as you might like. Remember, this is a Rapid Strike Pokemon, so you've got both Persimmon and Telescopic Sight that do the same thing. And what they do is they let you do an extra 30 damage to a Pokemon V or GX on the bench when you're attacking the bench of a Rapid Strike Pokemon like you are with Starmie. Do you get 90 per energy? And the answer is no. No, you don't. And I need to give another shout out to the lovely Antoine Boulet here, who apparently just can't stop being awesome and helping. We're extremely lucky, because we actually had this ruling before with Hooper and Telescopic Sight. And unfortunately, the rule is once per Pokemon. So if I've got 4 energy, I can do 90 damage to 4 different Pokemon Vs, bearing in mind Crobat and Kricketune are popular support Pokemon that will be 2-hit KO'd in this way. But I cannot discard 2 energy and KO a Crobat. That would be absolutely nuts. But make no mistake about it, what I can do is half KO every Crobat and Kricketune, and then come back next turn with a new Starmie and do it. I don't know if Starmie alone is going to be good enough to carry a deck. There is every possibility that you're going to need something else. But if you're playing a Frostmoth deck, let me be super clear. I love this. I adore this. I think this is absolutely brilliant. and I think we should all be extremely excited. I'm giving this between 4 and 5 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. I want this to be amazing, and maybe it's because in French it's literally got my name in. I don't know. All I do know is this is one that I'm a little bit excited about. And finally today, we've got a little bit of a look at Melmetal. Now, Melmetal here is a single strike Pokemon, and we've got 150 HP on a stage 1, which is very, very high. We've got a retreat cost of 4, which is very, very high, a resistance to grass, which is alright, I suppose, and a weakness to fire, which I'm not terribly worried about, because like I said with Maractus, fire post-rotation is just not looking as good. Now what we got here is free metal energy, 80 damage, during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from Pokemon with any abilities. And if you're an older player like me, this is probably going to make you go, Umbreon! Because I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know actually. Either the very first or very second, I forget which order it went to, Pokemon I ever built a deck around was the Umbreon from Undaunted, and I loved this Umbreon. I played a huge amount of this Umbreon. This Umbreon was great. It was one of those stupid decks that everybody thought wasn't viable, and then I'd rock up to it was only little tournaments, but I'd rock up to little tournaments and beat metagame decks played by good players, and they'd be like, but Umbreon's not good, and I'd be like, yeah, no, totally, it's terrible. And the reason is it had Moonlight Fang. Now, you only do 30 damage, but during your opponent's next turn, you prevented all effects, including damage, done to Umbreon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon that had any Poker Powers or Poker Bodies. This is back a little bit when passive abilities were Poker Bodies and active abilities were Poker Powers. It's basically the same thing. And it basically meant that your opponent had to have a viable Pokemon that could do good things without using Pokemon with abilities, or else you would win. And it could shut down entire decks that weren't, again, in big tournaments there was way too much variance, but in littler tournaments where everyone's just playing big metagame decks, there was legitimately a bunch of decks out there that didn't have an answer. It wasn't just Umbreon, there were other Pokemon around, but Umbreon literally single-handedly won me a bunch of games. And that was a stage 1 that did 30 damage, this is a stage 1 that does 80 damage. Is this any good? Probably not. Now the good news is, being a metal Pokemon, you've got that awesome combination of Metal Saucer and Bronzong. Metal Saucer will accelerate energy, and Bronzong will then allow you to move it wherever you want it to be, which is rather lovely. And it's always worth bearing in mind we have Cheryl at the moment, so you can move energy off with Bronzong, drop Cheryl to heal completely, and move energy back, which you got 150 HP. It might not be relevant, but you never know. Here's the problem. If we look at the format at the moment, the biggest decks, we've got Rapid Strike Urshifu, no ability. Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX, no ability. And Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX, which does have an ability. But then you've got Shadow Rider Calyrex V, which doesn't have an ability. And actually doesn't have a viable attack. So if your opponent is relying purely on Shadow Rider Calyrex V, good news, you'll shut it down, you'll win, you'll be good. Just forget about the fact that Alchemy VMAX is put into every Shadow Rider Calyrex deck and doesn't have an ability. There may well be, in the future, there may well be a situation where Melmetal is great, where your opponent is likely to be playing a deck revolving around Pokemon with abilities, and you're great. But if there's ever a V max, there is a decent chance the V will be able to take you down. And even against V maxes that don't have a V that can take you down, well, you've still got an option of just playing something without an ability, which a lot of decks will honestly just be doing naturally anyway. I think this could be great in some formats. I don't think we're in the format for it at the moment. The second attack here, 2 metal, 2 colorless, 150 discarded energy from this Pokemon. Fun little side note, this won't even get a 1-hit KO on an Alchemy V Max. It'll be 10 damage short, which is super annoying. So if you're hitting for weakness, it's not that great. It's 4 energy, but you're not getting a one-hit KO on support Pokemon like Crobat V. You'll get the majority of single-prize Pokemon, but it's 4 energy, and sure, 150 is high for a Stage 1, but you'll still be KO'd by most things in the format that are seeing significant play, so you're probably going to lose that energy after one attack, and you're not getting big enough KOs, and frankly, ladies and gentlemen, it's not worth it. If Melmetal's going to be good, it's going to be good for the first attack, and like I said, this is Umbreon's Moonlight Fang, and Moonlight Fang was great. But we were in a format that was absolutely overflowing with top decks that revolved around Pokemon with abilities. And we ain't there at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. We ain't there. Plus, if it ever becomes big, you can tech against it pretty easily by putting any attacker into your deck that can do 150 and doesn't have an ability. I'm giving it between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric because I love it. But let's be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, it's, not for now, I think is a polite way to put it. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Fair to say Starmie is the star of these 3 Pokemon. But now it's over to you guys. I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.